Good day. We're here learning Tanya Igeres HaKodesh, chapter 4. We're on page 210. And we are in the middle of the page after the words Kol Yemei Chayecha Mamish. The Alter Rebbe says here that there is two activities when it comes to a bris, a circumcision. One is called mila, the circumcised, to cut, and then there is priya, the foreskin, to pull away the foreskin from covering the mila. He explains that the first part, umila, the Torah says, umaltem, you shall circumcise. We have the ability to, not only ability, and we must alone, ourselves, do the circumcision process of cutting away the bad habits and the indulgences and things like that are coarse and corporeal. What about those indulgences that are very refined, or not very refined, and in the sense of, we still have cravings and urges? That the Alter Rebbe says God will do when Mashiach comes. That's not something that we can accomplish. Do you hear that? You hear that? So, Baruch, I know you're hoping to be a Beinani, a tzaddik, where all of your urges will go away. Well, let me not bust the bubble. It ain't happening. Okay? Unless you're a tzaddik. And you are a tzaddik. Generally speaking, figuratively speaking, you're a tzaddik. But outside of a tzaddik, Avram, everyone has an urge. We learned that in Tanya already. Remember in chapter 12? So the idea of the lightweight indulgences, that's not something that's possible to actually accomplish during our lifetime and during the lifetime of everyone before Mashiach comes. And it's important to really understand this, because people, especially people, Velvel, who are learning and davening and growing and want to become more ruchnius, right? More spiritual. You could get very frustrated. And you could say, I'm learning, I'm davening, giving tzedaka, I'm helping people, I'm being good. I threw away all of my foolish things that I knew about or didn't know about in my youth. I've done tshuva, and I still have cravings, and I still have urges for unhealthy things spiritually and physically. So we already learned in Tanya, chapter 27, the Alter Rebbe says, if you have such a thought, you're a balgaiva, you're an egomaniac. You have the whole equation wrong, completely wrong. You expect to be a tzaddik, because a tzaddik doesn't have those urges. A tzaddik vertovlo, the highest level of tzaddik. Tzaddik gomer. But outside of the tzaddik gomer, the four other categories, everyone has urges. So for you to have this expectation is not only erroneous, it's not only a mistake on your part, it shows you think of yourself that you're so much better than who you really are. You're miscalculating, you're misassessing who you really are. And this is a key element in Avodas Hashem. But I also want to say that at the same time, not to work and not to endeavor is also not an answer. We are taught we're supposed to strive, we're supposed to work. And the Rebbe spoke about this in his early years. of leadership in 1952 on Parshas Mishpatim in a very famous discourse called Lo Tiyeh Mishakela, from the Torah verse in Parshas Mishpatim. And the Rebbe was actually very emotional when he said this. And he said basically, and it's printed both in Hebrew and English, and I do encourage you to learn the Maimer, it's a classic. The Rebbe says there that taking a moment and thinking about what's with my love for God, my fear for God, and my pleasure for God, and my will for God, taking time during your lifetime when you're supposed to be working and thinking about your own levels is contrary to your shlichus, your mission on earth. You need to do. But when it came, Rabbi Yochanan Mezaka, it came the night before, the day of his passing, he stopped for a moment and he said, where am I going? Am I going to paradise or the opposite? Why? Because he never took the time to think about where he's going, because he wasn't relevant. It was all about God, not about him. Now, the Alter Rebbe here in Igeres HaKodesh Dalit talks about the two ideas of Mila and Priya, circumcision and removal of foreskin. And he says both are necessary, but one must realize that the ultimate of Priya, of removing foreskin, meaning removing any type of cover-up and hindrance in service of God, the ultimate will come when Mashiach comes. There are certain things it's not within your ability to remove, so don't waste your time. Again, he doesn't say those words, don't waste your time, but that's the implication. Don't waste your time. Okay? Be focused on what you need to do. When you're focused on your mission, everything falls into place. And let God worry about it. Don't play God. So let's go now to page 210. It's about 12 lines from the bottom after the period Kol Chayecha Mamish. Now the Rebbe said that when Mashiach comes, Hashem will circumcise the heart, giving you a love for God with all your heart and all your soul, Leman Chayecha, for the purpose of your life. And then he says Klomar. This is like a line before. Leman ki Hashem levadehu kol chayecha mamish. What is he saying with these words, Velvel? He just says, Leman chayecha. God's going to give you, Hashem's going to give you, when Mashiach comes, an ava to Hashem. What is missing here, Menashe? What is missing in the understanding of the Alter Rebbe's words that he adds the words kloimar? You know what kloimar means? Kloimar means I mean to say. Let me explain it to you. What is lacking that we need explanation? And the answer is that there is, the mindset is, I am God's servant, but there's an I first, and then there's God's servant. God imposes and gives me the ability to be a servant. That's not chayecha. You know what chayecha is? Chayecha means this is your life. You get up in the morning, you're alive. What's the first thing you do? You say, Maidani, you woke up. That's not, I woke up. That's life. That's breathing. I told you the story. I think it was Rabbi Castell, one of the older Chabad Hasidim. He moved to Meir Sharem, and a friend of mine here, one of the Slonim Rebbe's grandchildren, told me he was supervising him in Meir Sharem, where he lived. He lived with him for a while, because he was an older man, to help him with his basic needs. So he remembers one morning, he heard a noise coming from his bed. Oi! Ich leb! I'm alive! And he jumps off from the kitchen chair where this young Yossel was sitting, and he says, everything all right? Everything all right? He says, yeah. He says, I woke up, I realized I'm alive. That's chayecha. Chayecha is not, life is not good life, bad life, this type of life, that type of life. All of that is not life. That's an adjunct to life. So the Alter Rebbe says, when Mashiach will come, when the foreskin of refined indulgences will be removed, the feeling will be, God is my life. Just like breathing, the only way I can live is by breathing, we will have the same sensation that the only way I can live is to have Hashem in my life. Hashem is life, my life. There isn't my life and then there's Hashem in my life. This is life. Let's look at the words. Kloimar. Leman ki, because ki Hashem levadoi hu kol chayecha mamish. So beautifully said. For God himself and only God, hu kol chayecha mamish, he is my entire life in actuality. This is what we're going to sense when Mashiach comes. And you know, we can't really understand it now and feel it for sure because it's pre-Mashiach's time. But we could talk about it. We could understand it on some level. That's why I gave you the mushal, the parable of waking up and realizing I'm alive. Okay? I go back, and we have Dr. Velvel here. I go back to, before I got my sleep apnea machine, I was miserable. I was drooling, I had headaches, and I couldn't figure it out, and somehow Hashem sent the right shliach, this friend from Russia, two brothers who I knew and had a relationship with, and one of them became a pulmonologist, and he said, let me come to me, I want to check you out. He checked me out, he gave me a sleep test, and he found that, boy, did I have sleep apnea, bad. And he put on, gave me the machine, and overnight, everything went away. I mamish felt tchias hamesim. I always say, I've already had the resurrection of the dead once in my life. When I put that sleep apnea machine on, my drooling stopped, my headache stopped, I stopped falling asleep. I'm fresh throughout the day. Kihu chayecha. And this isn't the real kihu chayecha. The real kihu chayecha is way, way beyond that. But what's the word in English? An epiphany, When you have an epiphany, that I like that word, the epiphany, the realization that God is everything. That's what the Alter Rebbe says here, and that will be accomplished, Baruch, only when Mashiach comes. So probably you're going to ask me, Baruch, you're going to ask, so you mean I can't experience this level by learning Derech Chaim and Chodesh El? Baruch got himself a Derech Chaim, Baruch Hashem, of the Mittler Rebbe, like a good Lubavitcher Chassid, which it says we should study Derech Chaim during Elul. Very nice. But Baruch, if you think that after learning Derech Chaim, you're going to not have urges and cravings, think again. That's not why you learn Derech Chaim. You learn Derech Chaim so that you do one less Aveira. One. That's why you learn Derech Chaim. You don't learn Derech Chaim because after I learned for 20 days Derech Chaim, it's like the fellow said, you want to see Mashiach? You want to see him? For 40 days, fast. Or 40 days, go to the Kaisel. No, 40 days he goes to the Kaisel, Yaini, and he realizes he's the same old Joe Schmo, with the same old cravings, with the same old taivas. What happened? And what's the answer? The answer is, the way you went about the 40 days of going to the Kaisel was so egotistical, and therefore the result is your ego is stronger. Because now you could say, I went 40 days to the Kaisel. You understand? When we talk about going 40 days to the Kaisel, if that segula is a true segula, and I have no problem with it being a true segula, it's if you do the segula in a bittul way, in a humble way. Not if that's the problem today with many of these things is we go about them not with humility, we go about them with, I'm going to get this, I'm going to prove this. In other words, the mindset is, you understand, and that might be a difference just for another moment between when tzaddikim of old gave a kemeya, an amulet, or wrote an amulet, or gave a segula. The intent was be humble and just have it with you and let it do what it needs to do. I think Lahavdil, just like the beepers did what they had to do to explode and kill these mamzerim, so too let the holy beeper of a segula and an amulet just do what it has to do, and you forget about it. Don't go around saying, you know what? I went to this Rebbe, I went to this Mekubal, and they gave me a kameya, an amulet, and they gave me a recipe, and they gave me a secret, and therefore, A, B, C, D. It's not going to work, because you're contradicting the energy of the amulet. You're contradicting what the Rebbe gave you. The Rebbe gave you an opportunity beyond the norm. If you're a mensch, and you're normal, and you understand that you're a nothing, and if you have that feeling, whatever he gave you will kind of explode in you and take you to another level in a positive way. But if you interfere with your own ego, you ain't getting anything from any remedies and segulas and fasting 40 days and going to the Kaisel 40 days and jumping up and down. Nothing. 0 times 0 equals 0. And that's a guarantee. And I know people don't like to hear it, but that's the truth. That is the emes. Why? Because you're not in the world of segula. You're contradicting segula. Amulets, brachas. You're all about yourself. So the Alter Rebbe says here in these few words here in Tanya, in the Igeres HaKodesh 4, Ki hu chayecha. If you want the Mashiach experience to impact you, then you have to be totally a no to God to the point of your life is God. And that's the answer, Baruch, to the question, can we experience this today, Menashe? Yeah, that's what the Rebbe said. If you live Mashiachdik, if you live today with the same energy that we will live with when Mashiach comes, then you will have Mashiach today in your life. Of course, we want the real Mashiach, the real Beis HaMikdash, we know that. But we're talking about, I don't know, to me, this is like my understanding of the Rebbe's words. Open your eyes and see Mashiach. I'm here, I open my eyes, I don't see Mashiach. I see beepers exploding. I see war. I see famine. I see jealousy. I see my own shtick. Yeah, because we're not living Mashiachdik. But if you adapt the mindset and you really refine yourself on that level, and you live Mashiachdik, then you will experience Mashiach-like feelings. Anyway, let's go into the text. The love generated by Kihu Chayecho, that God is your life, comes from the depth of your heart, Minekudis Pnimius, Mamish Kinal, it comes from the very inner deep self, transcending the level of das, of knowledge, which is a composed experience. Right? Avram, you know what Chazal say? When will Mashiach come? Behesach hadas. When knowledge will be removed unknowingly. Surprise! Mr. Mashiach, Rabbi Mashiach walks into Avram, into your house on a Wednesday afternoon. Hey, you gave me the warning. Hey, Hesach Hadas. Chazal say this. Mashiach will come when we're most unprepared. Again, lahavdil. October 7th, we were unprepared, and we had the tragedy. How much more so when Mashiach will come? We will be unprepared because we're busy with all the silly things in the world, and he comes. How do you like that? That's what it says. Chassidus takes it on a deeper level. Not that it means we're unprepared literally. We have to prepare ourselves by becoming more Mashiach-dik. But Mashiach will transcend das. Hesach means to remove das. The level of Mashiach that we're talking about here is transcending das. No das, no legitimate, figured out, composed, boxed in knowledge will bring this Mashiach. Only when you go beyond it. Let's continue. L'chlolish Yisrael, Mashiach will come in such a way to all of Israel. V'hi gilui b'chinas nekodis pnimis haklolis. This is means the revelation of the quintessential point of inwardness. Haklolis, the general one. And at that time, the divine presence will exit. Haklol is the overall Shechina mehagolos from the exile, Vashivyan captivity, liad u'l'ol for eternity. This is regarding what will happen on a global level to all of us. V'chein kol nitzutz proti me'ashchina shebenefesh kol echad miYisrael, every divine spark that's found within every Jew that's in captivity, Yitzas will exit mehagolos from its exile, v'hashivyan, its captivity, lifisho, temporarily, b'chayisho zu tefillah, during the time that's called temporary life, prayer. The Gemara says in Shabbos, there's chayisho and chaya olam. Torah is considered chaya olam, eternal, and tefillah is temporary, because tefillah is generated by man, depending on man. Torah comes from a God, so it's eternal. Says the Alter Rebbe that you can experience the exiting of Golus and Shivya daily through prayer, while you pray, while you daven. In the service of the heart, that comes from the depth of the heart, is from the quintessential neshama, haniglis, which is revealed, may ha'orla, coming out of its foreskin, v'oila l'mayla, and it ascends upward, l'dofka boy, to cleave to Hashem, v'tshuka aza, with a mighty desire. Next page, kuf vav, top of the page. B'pchinas l'man chayecho, experiencing this idea of l'man chayecho, for God is your life. Who gam came b'pchinas hesach hadas, says the Alter Rebbe, just like Mashiach will come, it will be with behesach hadas, transcending knowledge. So too, this experience of releasing your neshama, your nitzutz eliki, from golus and shivya within yourself, within your cravings, will come behesach hadas, when you remove your approach to Hashem, which is with das only. Right? For this level needed to experience the exiting of the nitzutz from Golus, it transcends das ha'adam of the person. Hashem, and when he meditates on God, even the meditation, Avram, even the meditation and contemplation on God's greatness is nevertheless a limitation. It's your meditation. A meditation and contemplation on God has a description, has a definition. And we're talking about experiencing Mashiach behesach hadas. When you remove that, you begin with that, you begin with hisbonenus, but then you allow the hisbonenus to submerge you where you are not in control, i.e., you've gone beyond das. Let's continue. Raki bebchinas matana. Says the Alter Rebbe, what is it called? A matana, a gift. Matana nesnuna meis Hashem. It's a gift from Hashem. Mina shomayim, from heaven. Mehaoras b'chinas panim elyonim, from the level which is called the supernal continents. Commission Kosovo, as it says, Yoyer Hashem ponav elecha. Hashem will illuminate His face, His countenance, elecha, to you. Wow, God is shining His face on me. U'commission Kosovo mol Hashem elokeches levavcha. Who will do the circumcision then? Not you, not we, but God will do the circumcision. Because when we vacate His bonus and das and limitation and conditions and boxes and restrictions, we open ourselves up to experience God in God's pure form. Finished. Says the Alter Rebbe, it's known, ki sarusa de leila, the arousal that comes from God, who is above the leila, it requires isarusa de latata. This is what I just said to you, Velvel. It requires first an arousal from below. And that's what Baruch did. He bought a Derech Chaim to learn Derech Chaim. That's isarusa de latata. Dafke. Specifically, b'pchinas halois man, you have to elevate the feminine waters. K'mashom Razal, ein tipa yoredes milmayla. Chazal saying tinus, a drop of water doesn't come from above till there's a call from the clouds from below, right? So in other words, Menashe, you need to invest, and you need to bring you have to sow and plow and work. And then God lowers the rain onto your sowing and plowing, and the crop grows. Says the Alter Rebbe, therefore, a person has to first do this circumcision, to remove the foreskin of the heart, the klippus hagasa, and the coarse husk and shell, vidaka, hamalbishos umachassos alpchinas nekudas ptimis alev, and even the thinner, the more refined klippa, you still have to try to remove it as much as you can. All this coming from your inner heart, the ptimis alev, shehi pchinas avas Hashem. This is the avas Hashem. He repeats the nekuda that he said before, Pchinas Leman Chayecha, the level of this is my life. Shehi Begolus, which is in Golus B'Taivas Olam Hazeh, in the Taivas that we in the indulgences. Shem Gamkin B'Pchinas Leman Chayecha B'Zelum Hazeh. Beautiful point. Alter Rebbe says, just like we spoke about before, experiencing Leman Chayecha, God is life. Not God is just good life and this life. God is life. God equals life. You can't separate the two. Guess what? We're so in galus and we indulge so much, Yaini, that the tithes become who we are. Remember that mushroom I gave you? You bring the plate of food someone hasn't eaten in days, and you invite him over to your house, and then you have someone over who has, but right now he's traveling. And you put down the plate of food in front of them, and then someone comes and snatches the plates from each. Who's going to be more upset? The wealthy person that always has, or the poor person that never has? The wealthy person. The poor person that never has, so again, he thought he had a plate of food, it was taken away, right? But the wealthy person expects it. I'm a wealthy person. I'm traveling now. So, thank you for bringing a plate. I don't have it, he goes crazy. Why? Avram, why? Because the plate of food and the wealthy person became one. When you talk about him, you're talking about indulging. That's who he is. He can't live without it. He's truly addicted. Really addicted. This is addiction. The poor person is not addicted to the food. He's hungry. He would love to eat. But he hasn't eaten in a long time, so it'll be another day. Because he and the food are not one. The wealthy person That's who he is. Says the Alter Rebbe. Since we in our taivas have gone so low, where taivas don't just become who we are and we must have them. It's an addiction. Otherwise we can't function. So the only way to get out of that is by bringing into your life the opposite, Zelu Mazeh, that God is our life. God is life, excuse me. God is life is the antidote to Taiva's life. You hear that? I want you to take those words and put them into your head. Think about it over Shabbos. The antidote to Taivas is life, is God is life. Torah is life. Mashiach is life. Rebbe is life. All of that is the antidote to the addiction. And by the way, if you don't come to that point, the taiva will always bother you and drive you, and ultimately many times you fail. You fall into the taiva. Let's go. Bow. Baruch, this answers your question that you asked me yesterday on the WhatsApp. How do I accomplish this? Here the Alter Rebbe says, by giving tzedakah from your money, which is your life force. You worked so hard, you schwitzed. You're not interested in this work, and you work around the clock. You're not home with your kids and your wife and your friends and the shiurim, all to bring home money, parnasa, and you take that money that you worked so hard, which means it's you, and you give it away to someone else. And specifically someone whose livelihood is very mitzumtzam, is very meager. And the time presses. In other words, he's really under stress where he needs to pay the bills. He needs to pay tuition. He needs to pay for the car payment. And if not, he doesn't have a car. And the doctor doesn't want to see him. And the yeshiva says, sorry, you can't bring your kids here. But that's the situation. And he gives away this money that he could use to pay any of these bills. He's not giving extra money, Menashe, that he has somewhere stashed away. He's giving away his piece of bread. He's giving away his life. If someone enjoys the work that he does, and he gets paid for it too. It's the person worked hard and he enjoyed it, but he worked very hard. So his entire geschmack, his entire pleasure, his entire life is in the work that he did. Ukai Davna is similar. Now, when he splurges and he gives tzedakah from his hard-earned effort, and he gives this to Hashem, meaning he gives tzedakah besimcha, with happiness, uvetuv levov, and gladness of the heart. You hear what the Alter Rebbe says here? You have here the answer for life. Giving away your money, tzedakah, you redeem your soul, mishachas. That's a heavy language, heavy word. Avram, what does it mean? From destruction. That's what it says. The quintessential part of his aspect of his neshama, that was in exile and captivity, but in the coarse clip or the more refined clip, from all hidden, watch my heart. Mishma, Peter's Beis Asura. Mishma means not just a place of watching. You can't get out. It's a jail. Your neshama was in jail. And now you released it. And now your neshama is redeemed from the extraneous forces, Tzedaka zu, through this tzedaka. We'll continue and finish the chapter tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem. But this is an incredible...
So Rabbi,
Go ahead.
Rabbi, basically saying the tikkun, this is the tikkun for what he's discussing. This is mamish the tikkun for.
Yeah, but in Chabad you don't see the Alter Rebbe using the word here tikkun. So in Breslov they use the word tikkun. In Chabad the Alter Rebbe doesn't see it as a tikkun, but that's true. In other words, this is the avodah. Chabad is avodah, work. This is the work that's necessary. This isn't Yoini read, the 10 kapitlich of Tillim. I want to make it. This isn't the Zettel Cotton, and this isn't the Tikkun Kloli. Those are different mahalchim. They're very holy and very good. But this is not what Alter Rebbe is saying here. He wants here work, and he wants you to work on yourself with where you understand that when you give from your money and your life force that you need, and you work so hard, and you give it away to someone else or to Hashem, to a cause, you're actually causing your neshama that was in exile and in captivity to be freed. Because you put yourself in this prison through indulging in taivas. So you need to do something that's the exact opposite in a positive way to release yourself. So just as you've made taivas your life, give away what's your life. Your money is your life. Kihu chaya, that's your life because you work so hard. Chevra, have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Beautiful. It's a very, very beautiful thought. Sei gesund. See everyone tomorrow. Take care, Chevra. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Take care.